conversations about culture and Christianity. My name is Eric, and today I'm joined by Jess.
Hello, world.
And Alex.
Hey, everybody. It's Alex.
I thought you were going to go with, hey, good looking, what you got cooking?
Nope.
So
Maybe another episode.
I'll give you that one. Put that in your back pocket. What's happening, everybody? You guys feeling
Putting
feeling
it in my
good?
back pocket.
Did you put that idea back there?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Crazy to think, like I get on the social medias every so often, and this week I got a memory from like 3 years ago with our boy Dave talking about Colts.
Dave.
Dave
Montoya.
Yeah.
Montoya,
So
yes.
former staffer here, former
I miss
Colted,
Dave.
I don't know, what would you call it? Former member of a Colt.
Yeah.
And then it just got me all nostalgic thinking like, man, this thing has been around for 3 years and we have talked about so many things. Like
we've
it's
seen
just
some things.
It's crazy. We've moved studios. We've been through a lot of stuff. And so just grateful for the opportunity and running into random people that are like, you should talk about this. And so
Yeah.
you guys are awesome. It's been fun.
Oh, you're feeling real sentimental.
Nice new glasses,
I do
Jess.
feel
Oh,
I
yeah.
feel the same way.
I noticed something was different.
The glasses.
Going with the glasses.
Yep,
Are those
doing those
prescription or
today.
are they just
No,
vanity?
I get we'll get migraines because we are underneath lights, and I had my lights on over in my office,
Oh.
and so I can feel a migraine coming. So I just do like everything I can to
Block it out.
prevent it.
That's wise.
I will say one of my favorite things about the podcast is we've had just so many opportunities to have conversations we probably would never have had, or just sat across the table from people that we probably wouldn't have.
Yeah.
I love that. And I just love the way that we get to interact with a lot of people. That's kind of maybe selfish, but it's just fun. I mean,
Yeah.
even the different members and people on social media that we get to talk to.
Speaking of social media, something new and exciting. We just this week launched a uncomfortable social media presence account on TikTok and on Instagram.
Yeah.
So follow that. That's at CCCOMA podcast.
Do you guys think that we should do a TikTok dance? Is that in our future?
I mean, I
I'm
guess
down.
we could. I guess we probably should at least on TikTok.
I'm just letting you
I
know.
don't know.
If people don't see it, it's not because I'm saying no.
On Reels, we'd probably do like a tour of our living room space over
Yeah, we
here. Or
should.
something.
Oh, yeah, that'd be-
Where all
That's-
the
That would be interesting.
magic happens.
Uh-huh.
Well, I think one of the hopes behind this is that we're just, we've had the email address, like you sign off and say, hey, if you got questions or thoughts, email us. But we want to showcase some of the former conversations we've had because they are relevant to still a lot of things happening in society today. I use them a lot of times, whether it's in conversations with people like, you need to listen to this one because of an addiction or whatever. It really helped me. And so we want to, I think have that out there more. And we do want, we value our listeners. It's crazy. I'm always blown away that people listen or people do say, you should talk about this. And so it's another hopefully way to actually be more in dialogue with listeners and put other ideas out, show some behind the scenes. And so that's one of the hopes that we want out there. We've got a Google Voice number you can find on our link tree that's on those platforms, and we'll probably utilize that at different times for either you sharing your opinion or comments or voicemails that we could enter in your voice to the podcast. And so I'm excited for the potential of that and, just kind of a new thing to try and to see if people jump on board.
Can they text us at that number as
They
well?
can text us,
if they want? Okay.
Yep. So that number, they can text
There you
us.
go.
They can save it. And right now through Linktree, the only thing it allows them to do is save it as a contact.
Yeah.
But the phone number's on there, so they can text it, call it, give
Nice.
us feedback that way.
Again, if you're looking for it, the account on IG or TikTok, that's CCCOMA podcast. There you'll find us.
Yep.
I'm excited to hear from everyone, and maybe we'll post some stories or something on there that people can connect with. We'll say hi. All right. Also, I want to remind everyone, if you haven't yet, take some time to rate us on iTunes or Spotify. Rate and review. That always kind of helps us with our discoverability when people are searching for podcasts. If they see that there's a lot of highly reviewed or positive reviews on a podcast, that'll help when people are searching for topics to raise our show to the top, cream of the crop.
Sweet.
So
Yeah,
please
none
do
of that's
that.
because we don't. There's zero monetary anything
No,
involved in the podcast, but we really do believe the conversations that we have, the topics that we talk about, hopefully are, rooted in scripture and can be life-changing things to help people. And so it's really out of a desire for more people to be helped and to be seen, and hopefully that's why we exist. So
Yeah, cool. All right, up next, we've got headlines. All right, our first headline, it comes from the New York Post. It says mouth taping is one of the most dangerous TikTok trends, says doctors. I had not been aware of this trend, but Jess, you brought this headline to our attention, and I watched some of the videos. It seems like it started with one guy who claims to be maybe a doctor, but not a real doctor. But anyways, he said that he puts this mouth-shaped tape over his mouth to improve his sleep and stop snoring, and it improves oral health, according to him, which that just seems like the most bold in the China cabinet type, but like way about fixing anything. Like, oh, my husband snores and the wife just rolls over and duct tapes his mouth. Like, is what I'm imagining. That doesn't seem very logical or safe. And so it became a trend where I think they said like 24 million views on that hashtag, which was like mouth taping or something like that. And a lot of people were trying it out, which doctors say especially if you have sleep apnea, can be fatal.
Right. Or just think if you like take a sleeping pill or something, and I don't know, there just seems like
so many things.
There's lots of things that could go wrong. I actually saw this on TikTok. That came through as on my For You page as somebody that was against it. So then I went and saw this video, and I'm like, this cannot be real. So then obviously looked it up.
Sometimes it just does seem like if you put out outlandish things on TikTok and you try to like act super confident, that's sometimes how trends just pick up.
Yeah.
And it's like, how many of those people actually did it, but they're just like, oh, this is fun, it's trending, let's chase the trend. And like, how many of them put that on over? Like, I would think, and you can always get in trouble saying this, I would think people would be smarter than that, the majority of people. But
yeah, careful what you think.
Well, now we can't say anything.
Yeah.
There's quotes from videos that's from one person that says, I've been doing this now for a couple months after seeing this, and it is life-changing. Best sleep of my life. And I'm just thinking like,
normally I like buy a new pillow,
Yeah.
do something else. But
I do this every night, except I tape my whole lips. I don't know what that means before, like instead of just like part of your lips. I don't know. At first I thought I'd panic, but no issues. Sleep so much better. Less than snoring. No dry mouth.
Okay, now we sound like we're selling it.
I know. I just
all these things, but really it's like you are taking away one of the ways you legitimately
it's terrible.
stay alive.
There's just pictures of people sleeping with duct tape on their face.
One of your breathing holes is closed.
Yeah, don't do this.
Why?
Don't do this. It does go to show that, like you said, Alex, I think the way that trends take off and people, we've talked about people self-diagnosing themselves with ADHD and other things like that because of TikTok. The deconstruction movement has, made leaps and bounds because of TikTok. And I think you're right. It must be something about that confidence and just convincing others.
But we should probably let people know that at the bottom of this article, it does say taping mouth will make health worse and could contribute to more serious issues like heart disease, COPD, and a stroke.
Okay.
Right,
particularly if
heart.
applied to you or if you're somebody who has sleep apnea. So if we sold you on...
Don't do it. If you've got even a sniffle, just think if you have like a little stuffy nose.
Do not.
Yeah.
Nobody do it.
Nobody do it.
We're just sharing it because, there's always something. There's always something going on, and you just don't think you'd ever hear it.
Yeah.
Here we are.
It's like when you sleep in one of those older hotels with the air conditioning unit that's just way too powerful, and then you wake up and your nose is all stuffed up because it's so cold in there. But what if you were taping your mouth that night? That could be a disastrous end.
Yes, it could.
Yeah, so don't tape your mouths. I guess good on the New York Post for raising awareness about that. So if you're out there making TikToks, Alex, I saw you were busy making TikToks recently.
I made 2 TikToks
two
yesterday.
in one day.
Yeah.
So maybe you
Wow.
should make one about not taping your mouth shut.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm
say,
not always following the trends, but
just be like, I don't sleep with tape on my mouth, and neither should you.
just glow in the dark shoes. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
All right, our next headline comes from today.com, and it says school's new cell phone policy goes viral after upset mom posts about it. In quote, nopity nope nope.
Nopity nope nope.
I'm
I
guessing
feel
that's
like
what the
I'm gonna
mom
start
said.
saying that. Nope. Nopity nope.
Nopity nope nope. Yeah, I mean, pretty much we've seen these little pouches. They're magnetic, and they lock your phone in them. We've been seeing them at different types of concerts and, stand-up comedy shows, things like that, where they don't want you to film, but yet you still are in possession of your phone. It's just in the little pouch, and you hold that, and then you have to go get it released at the end. This is what they're doing at one particular school. I think they said it costs around $20,000 to implement. It's a way to keep students off their phone during the school day. I mean, it's a sign of old age to kind of go, oh, I don't really know. I mean, like I didn't even have a beeper when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Did you have a beeper? Alex, you seem like you'd have a beeper.
I did not have a beeper. You
My
had
dad
a
had
beeper?
my dad had a beeper.
Your dad would have a beeper.
I did have some pretty cool custom shells to my phone that were really, really
Oh,
awesome.
so you had a phone in high school?
I turned 16 in high school. So
We all did. I hate to break it to you.
You're much later than you did. Yeah. Good
Oh
point.
my god.
When I turned 16, phones were probably
It wasn't that
a little
long
more
ago.
available.
Did you have a Razor?
I never did. No, I had I think Motorola.
Okay.
Some Motorola flip phone, and I remember going to the mall and getting like those kiosks that just sold. I mean, they still have those that are like phone cases, but this was like a surgery to my phone.
Oh, okay. Where they like replace parts.
Yeah, and like the battery. I got a cool battery that lit.
It was
up
the
and
Nokia
everything.
one, right?
No,
so-
mine was a Motorola.
Oh, Motorola. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm old, just enough older that I missed.
Did you
the
turn
phone.
16 in high school?
I did turn 16 in high school.
Good.
That did happen. That's where my experience and your experience were similar. But I didn't. Yeah, the cell phone thing wasn't. I mean, they had bag phones and stuff like that when I was in high school.
They
but
what?
Had bag phones, like the big phone that you could carry in
Oh
a bag.
yeah. Yep. My mom
But
had one of those.
But yeah, not quite to the small personal devices.
I think especially now, I mean, this kind of really got me thinking because I don't know if you guys have been following the Parkland, Florida. There's the death penalty cases going on with all the students. The parents have gotten to, like, with the shooting that happened there.
Oh, yeah.
And so a lot of the evidence that came in for the prosecution was from student cell phones. Their cell phone videos. That's how the police knew where they were and what was going on because the kids were on their phones. And so even my empathy made me like put these two together
Yeah.
of like, if they didn't have access, if I didn't have access to my kid, I don't know. I understand we need to pay attention. Like kids need to be paying attention. Like it doesn't need to be a distraction. But if like removing it from their body, removing access.
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't know if that's
it can
the right
be.
thing.
I mean, I think it's probably tough, and depending on the school, to kind of implement. Hey, don't use your phone, and you have to deal with disciplinary actions because they're not listening and things like that. But it does
Yeah.
feel like this. It's just a different. Because I'll hear people make the argument, "Well, I went all day without any contact with my parents. It was fine. I turned out fine, And it's like I mean, that's true. I'm not saying that's not true, but it's also like we live in a different time, and because we have something, like, why not utilize it if we can? And I think completely just taking it away from a kid, especially like you said, in times where there can be school shootings, and I mean,
Or just emergencies.
any type of you just have that direct contact. And sometimes I think schools now, some of these bigger public school districts, they're not answering the office phone. Like your mom used to call the office and say, Alex down. It's his 16th birthday. I know it's crazy.
Yeah.
He's in high
He's getting a
school,
cell
but I'm just like that stuff seemed more common. Where now, I don't know, to just take that away seems
Right.
really risky.
I for sure know. I am glad I'm not the one that makes rules for this kind of stuff. Because,
Well, undoubtedly, I mean, there's an issue too
Right.
with cell phones and classes and people's attention and all of those kinds of things. I mean, my wife subs and, she can just tell often when there's just kids on the cell phone and there's kind of, and probably partially because she's a substitute, there's, you treat a substitute like a sub and you try to see what you can get away with no matter what. But there's definitely a distraction and kids will try to push to the limit of, what can I do? This is mine, and teaching personal property. And I know like this mom was like, this is my property. And so if anybody wants to see your phone, they got to contact me first and so on. I think it was Dr. Rachel French is the name of the mom that said nopey nope nope.
Yeah.
You're the only one with kids that age. I guess maybe your kids have cell phones.
No.
Mine don't. So how do you, I guess, process that? Or how did the Went family establish
everyone
phones in
should
school and
follow that? No, my son's in 6th grade this year, and he has a phone, but the school that they attend, they kind of have a policy that they aren't supposed to technically bring them to school if they're in 6th grade or under.
Okay.
But I think it's kind of if they keep it in their locker or something like that, and that's probably okay. I know my daughter has hers, and she can check it in between classes and stuff like that. So, I mean, we're fine with it as long as the teachers aren't telling us, hey, they're abusing this privilege. And it's handy. I mean, there's just times when we're like, oh, hey, we're gonna be late to pick you up. We didn't have to go and try to get a hold of the school and do all this stuff. We just sent a text, So there's a lot of advantages I see, but I know this drum gets beat a lot, but it kind of comes back to the parenting and how, how you're communicating with your kids and telling them to respect authority and to respect the wishes of their teachers and things like that.
Yeah. So. And obviously you can, as a parent, I think, and you should, as a parent, figure out, releasing more and more opportunity or availability on a phone to a kid and know what's happening on there, as far as, if you need to set up moments or like we have a switch, and part of that is, okay, we say, here's when you can be on it and not on it. And here's your screen time limits and things like that, which is all part of parenting. And so you can maybe suspend certain apps, throughout the day or whatever that might look like. But I also think like you have to train kids for the real world, and so I have a phone and a device on me pretty much all the time, multiple, between a watch and a computer, things that are just always sending notifications. And that's going to be you're not going to walk to your job and be like, hand in your phone. So we have to teach kids how to use this responsibly while we have those opportunities. Otherwise, I think that's where things just go chaotic, I think. And so
everybody's different too. I think people pick up on social cues different with their phones, and it's like, my daughter's very aware of that, and she knows when she's sitting down at dinner with family or something like that to try to be present, and she, where my son's less aware of that, like he doesn't, so it's just that's a personality thing too. But I think you kind of have to set those examples and expectations,
and then one teacher gets 20 plus kids with then 40 maybe plus parents that are teaching them how to use their phone, and then they're like, okay, now what do I do? So I can see how I can empathize with needing a rule. But I agree with you guys. It's more like, I hear you saying we have a tool, so then how do we use that tool aside from just taking it away? It's maybe teaching our kids how to use that, or like what's appropriate before in that being in that situation.
I'm most excited to just see the Nopey Nope Nope song come out. Too bad it wasn't like it was a news video article, then it would probably already be turned into a viral video. Maybe that could be our first TikTok.
Nopey
You
Nope
write
Nope
the you write the rap.
Yeah.
You come up with the music. I'm here for it.
Okay. All right.
I'll do whatever.
We'll get on that. Everybody look forward to the Nopey Nope Nope.
Hope. Nope.
Do the Nopey Nope Nope.
What? Nope. What'd you say? Nope.
All right. That does it for headlines. Up next, we're going to be talking about fantasy football. All right. Are you ready for some fantasy football? I think that's the phase. Are you ready for some football? Is that how it goes? It's that time of year.
Monday night kickoff song and all that fun stuff.
Football's happening, and that means fantasy football is happening. You know, for someone like me who maybe isn't the biggest sports enthusiast, help me understand exactly what fantasy football is. For the sake of argument, I have played fantasy football, so I'm a little bit of devil's advocate happening over here. But I feel like Alex, you really understand it. I don't know, Jess, where you're at on it, but I need some insight.
Yeah, fantasy football. I think it's like there's fantasy sports all over the place. So fantasy baseball, fantasy basketball, like
So it's
soccer
like
leagues.
It's like wizards and dragons playing
Essentially,
football.
yeah. No, it's essentially, from pro sports teams. I think fantasy football is the maybe the first one, or probably the biggest that most people play, because some of the seasons are just, basketball and baseball seasons, those are like 3 years long.
Yeah.
So you have to make way more decisions.
Lots of games.
So essentially it is, you would get a roster that you would draft, get some buddies or office coworkers or whoever, 8 to 12 people. And you are basically putting a team together of professional athletes. And based on their stats throughout a game or a season, you're getting points to win against, head-to-head competitors. I don't know how every league works. I've mostly just done I did 1 year fantasy basketball. Like I said, that was way too long, and I was the guy everybody hated in that league. And then I've done fantasy football.
Was it because you're so good?
Not because I was so good, but it is the thing about fantasy football. I think makes it manageable is there's one game a week.
Oh, okay.
And so in a basketball season or a baseball season, games are like constantly happening. And so in fantasy football, maybe Thursday night games or Monday, but there's one game. So you set your roster once a week. These other
you
sports,
set your
it's
roster
like,
one time. There's multiple games.
Yeah, multiple games that your players on your team play in, but like the Chicago Bulls, for example, or the Cubs, they play multiple times a week. Right. Is what I'm trying to.
So what's the difference between this and like March Madness brackets, though? Like, because that's just you set your bracket and you can set it and forget it. Ron Popeil that thing and you're done.
Yeah,
right?
one time.
Okay.
And there are people that every round make picks or whatever, and so on and so forth, and so.
Okay.
But this conversation came up. I was talking to a couple recently, and the wife was kind of joking about, her husband. Her husband plays fantasy football, and was kind of like making jokes of like, yeah, we don't always get there in the fall to church because he's got to set his roster and all that kind of stuff. And he just sits in front of the couch all day and watches these teams, and he's obsessed with fantasy football. So it was kind of like a joking banter going back and forth between the two. And then she's like I'm the pastor in the room in this situation. So she's like, what do you think about it? And I'm like, we're not going to talk about that.
Can we just clarify that this was not me?
This was not you.
This wasn't me and Ben.
This was not you. Okay. And so it got me thinking, because she was basically calling it idol and like kind of joking around.
Calling it a idol or like a
potential idol.
Okay.
And I don't know if I was not going to go there with them in that setting, but it got me thinking, about fantasy football and sports. And I've had a lot of different interactions with people around this, and so someone else chimed in that was next to us. You should talk about that on the podcast.
Is that what they sounded
like?
Is that how
yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
Yep. So if you know what that person sounds like, you might know who it was.
All right. Well, it worked. We're talking about it on the podcast. Okay. All right.
So would you take suggestions seriously about topics?
Yeah, we do. Did we mention we have a social media account? You can
give us more suggestions. Or your opinions, which we asked for as well on there. So we'll share some of those later.
Yes, we do.
Okay. So, so really this is kind of about people getting very obsessed with their draft team, and just that takes up their whole fall pretty much.
Are we talking about people that are obsessed or just fantasy football in general? Because if that is it, I feel like there's lots of different people.
Well, and I
you
think
can have
that-
lots of different people in your.
That's the thing is I think it is used. I mean, it's like a cell phone. We talked about that being a tool. I think fantasy football can be like a lot of things used and create maybe an idol in someone's life or a pain point in a relationship, or it can honestly be something that enhances or builds relationships. And so
Community building
Yeah.
type thing.
And so I think that's where we have some of this conversation maybe around how is it healthy? Where is it healthy? What does it look like? And so,
Yeah, because I know I played one time. We had a little fantasy league going on here at the church that I was involved in, and it was fine. I just don't. I keep up with sports very lightly, and I just didn't. I don't get that excited about it, and I felt like my lack of enthusiasm kind of robs the excitement from everybody else in a way, because it's like when people are really passionate about something and you're not, you're kind of lowering the tide. And so it wasn't for me, but I could see how people would get really, really wrapped up in it. One of the aspects of it are that a lot of them do different types of wagers, or there are wild consequences that can happen if you lose. I believe there was
that
an article
that you sent.
that kind of laid out some of those. It's like some of the best and the worst.
yeah. So I know, like at the church, for example, the league that you played in, and I've played in it as well. We have the worst, whoever loses.
Yeah.
So you want to win and you don't want to lose. And I think we have like a license plate, like
Cover,
not
I
an
think.
cover that the loser is supposed to get. And our producer, actually, I know one time, I think that ran him out of the league because he won the coveted last place thing, and
It
then
just says I lost
my fantasy football league or something
Yeah.
like that.
Ah.
And someone went and very kindly actually put it on his car for him. They installed
okay.
it for him. And so that's kind of like one of those. But in this one, you see commonly like tattoos in some leagues of like, you have to go get, I lost fantasy football. Like I've seen that,
Wow, that's a pretty permanent
That's not-
punishment.
or piercing.
That's pretty serious.
I saw one where a guy had to spend the whole day in a Waffle House.
Waffle House.
That sounds pretty bad.
Like
Yeah,
Waffle
like
House
a
is kinda
restaurant?
awful. Yeah.
He had
The
to stay there for
restaurant or-
24 hours, but he got an hour off for every waffle he actually ate.
So if he ate 24 hours, or 24 waffles, he could just leave.
Yeah, but I think they said like he ate 10 of them, and so that cut off 10 hours of his time being in the Waffle House.
So fantasy football can make you do some
Yeah, there's like
things you might normally not do.
yeah, you participate in an NFL combine, so if you lose, you have to go do that, and so there's a lot of different. You got to get a picture on Santa's lap in one league.
So
and
basically, you can make the loser do a dare or something like that.
run
so
a lemonade
have you ever
stand.
done that?
I have never lost in fantasy football. I've won once in one league I've ever been a part of, but I've never had to do the freezing plunge or the license plate. So
Well, I've seen one where it was actual customized plates that you had to get. Like you had to pay to get customized plates and put it on your car. So yeah, it's a lot. There's I mean, if it's all in good fun, there's nothing really that you can say is wrong with it. But I think sometimes it can be a little bit hurtful.
yeah, if you're in a league, I'd love to hear. Like, do you guys have a punishment or anything like that you have? That it's just always entertaining to hear what those are. Like
Are you
that
asking
Waffle
me?
House one? No, I'm saying our listeners. Like,
Okay.
drop
Yeah.
one in the comments or let us know what that looks like for you.
I'm in a fantasy football league, and it was funny that this was our topic this week because I had just I've been in one for probably 10 years, literally not because I'm a huge football fan. I'm purely in it for the love and community.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm always pretty low towards the bottom of the totem pole. So I text our friend every year, and I'm like, am I still like allowed in the group? Because it's not like I'm a super
Yeah.
diehard.
Were you
But-
allowed again?
So Yeah, I'm in.
Oh, good.
Ben and I are in.
And I think a lot of fantasy football leagues, or at least some of the friends I have in them, they do wagers on it. So, everyone, maybe you throw in $20 at the beginning of the season and the winner of the league gets all that money.
So it's gambling.
So it's gambling, at some level. There is also like DraftKings and literally like gambling sites that are about betting and all that kind of stuff every week. But it is a different form of gambling. I think those people would say in those leagues that it keeps people a little bit more engaged if there's something on the line. And I think that's what the last place trophy kind of thing is for, is like you can play in a league and then somebody just doesn't ever set the roster or anything like that. And then sometimes that actually helps other people in the league to essentially just run over that team.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of the competitive edge, or at least to set it competitive so you don't lose and there's a consequence instead of just coasting to the end.
And that's like the next step up to me versus just a regular old fantasy football league. The next one up could be, okay, you're in it and you're like doing a buy-in.
Yeah.
That to me is like a little next level.
So, Jess, you mentioned the community aspect of it. What do you see about it? Is it just the socializing, or kind of the I don't know, humble bragging, or kind of
I
some
don't
fun,
feel like it's humble bragging.
some fun teasing, or you know what I mean? Like you're kind of agging each other on when you win or lose, or is there not much of that?
No,
or?
I don't feel like that. That's not for me. Maybe for other people. For me, it's purely. I'm in a league with people that I literally probably wouldn't talk to or interact with from college that I hadn't seen. So it's like kind of like tradition at this point.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's part of it. I also feel like the other part is, I know that Ben really likes football, and one of my best friends runs this league. And so I do it like to support them, or like, okay, they like it, so I want to be a part of it. And also like Ben and I don't have a ton of stuff that we get to do together at this point in life with kids and stuff. So it's like,
and
something we can set.
And I think that gets to some of like sometimes getting out of a fantasy football league is difficult. Like I've been in leagues like you just mentioned, Jess, where it began as like, okay, we all graduated from college together. We're moving to different cities. This is like our connection. Like this will help us text every week, and there is maybe a little trash talk and those kinds of things. And then like what happens over time is like the next year, a guy or a gal doesn't want to play, and then the commissioner, because there's usually somebody that leads it, organizes it. They're called the commissioner, and then they're like, well, I need to go find someone else. And so they meet Jimmy, who now works at their company. And so now you've got 11 people that know each other. And then you've got this wild card person in there, and you're like, I don't know them. And then so like over time it starts to deplete, but then you feel like you're letting, the commissioner down or this friend down, because they're like, it does create some complications between like a friendship, because you're like, this is how we bond. This is how we still, communicate and get together. But I'm not going to be friends with the random guy or the 5 random guys that are now at your work. And so there's been like difficult conversations where I've left fantasy football leagues, and I'm like actually like fearful of the conversation, not because
or like,
I'm going to get hurt.
Are we still going to be friends?
Yeah, but like, or is this
sounds
all
stressful?
Is this all that's keeping like our relationship together?
I'm sweating here.
Is fantasy football, and at that point it's weird. But we've probably all been in those situations where you like want to quit something, or it's the time to move on, and it's just kind of like that awkward.
Yeah.
This is just like kind of a little cesspool where it can happen.
A cesspool.
Wow, that's
like,
pretty.
You know what I mean?
dramatic.
Like this is like a little like poultry dish of like
Poultry.
where it
I
can
think you mean a
happen.
petri dish.
Petri dish.
A poultry dish would be a dish with chicken.
And I was also 16 when I got my phone.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
Okay, I will say, like you even talking about this, I just have to share. I'm literally sweating because I feel I just get so worked up about this because I really care. Like Alex, if you care about something, like Alex,
You
if
care about winning?
like I just would care more about something if you guys cared about something, just because like
okay.
I care about you.
Yeah.
So my friend that leads this fantasy football team, the draft got scheduled on a night that I had to work. It was the 100-year celebration.
You only turn 100 once.
You only turn 100 once.
Oh, yeah.
I literally was in the dunk tank that night, right? I didn't even have my phone for part of it, and I knew I knew that time was coming, and I like wasn't going to be done with work. And I'm texting him because I know it's like a huge deal.
Yeah.
And it's a huge deal. Like if you let your team auto draft, it takes longer. Like you're not really like participating like everybody else. And it like was a thing that, I mean, I probably like made it a bigger thing because I like called and apologized, but I really knew that like I disappointed him and let him down.
Wow.
Because
see, I just hearing all this though, just it gives me anxiety, and I'm like, I don't need that. Like if I'm not a very competitive person for the most part, and so like I don't like if it's all just about winning and like it's taken super serious anytime it like I would want to do something like this for fun because it was fun and I got to hang out with my friends or whatever. But I think when it is just about the competition and it's this thing that is made way more important than it actually is, that just does not sound appealing at all to me personally.
Yeah. And I think that, I mean, for some people, they're like, this is the stupidest conversation. I mean, there's people that are just like, this is foolish.
There are people that get it, though.
Yeah. And then there are people that get it.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, this is what friendships are built on. Like, this is when, you know, a lot of places like Buffalo Wild, like companies literally host draft parties, you know, where you get together and they will host you and you get this whole meal for like a draft party where we all get together. And again, it's one of those social things that I think for a lot of people is like, it's one of those links to relationships. I know here at the church, you know, we have a league, like I said, and I think one of the problems sometimes is it can become, insidery, I guess, is like, okay, there's only so many people that can play, and there's sometimes other people that want to, but you only have so many spots, and so who's in, who's out, and all those kinds of things. And so it is one of those things that can become insidery. But we do have like, hey, we get together, it's old school, like you have to be there present. There's some pretty strict rules.
Yeah.
Eric almost watched me cry last year when I faced the consequences of we go up and write our draft pick on a board. Nobody does this anymore. Like young kids that are like, what is that? And I got punished and for writing down the name of another name that was already written up there. And
what's punished? Like you got yelled at?
I didn't get a pick in that round.
Oh, wow.
Which is
not good.
Not good. And so
I will say that we're kind of like I don't even want to dog on the people because I feel like this is for some people like really an antithesis of like how they play out their love of sports and football, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think it's like a really cool way to bring sports lovers together and to have a good time. You know what I mean?
How do we draw that line between a hobby and an obsession though? Because I feel like when it gets this emotionally invested in something, it seems like there's some red flags, maybe.
Yeah.
Like when you're getting mad at people, when you're yelling or angry or ruining friendships, or people are scared. That just seems like, okay, this is almost an obsession, like an unhealthy obsession. You're not willing to have fun with it. But maybe that's just because I don't take sports like it's not as important to me. Like I don't know. Maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, I know. Like one of the listeners, because we put this question out on social media, a guy named Marcus. He said,
"We're not laughing to make fun of Marcus.
No.
I think this is really cute that he did this.
It was
Whoever
just
Marcus is.
He's looking for a league.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
So I feel weird. Like, hey, if you guys have a league and you're looking for another player, Marcus is your guy. Let us know.
But this is a man that's committed.
Yeah. So his league that he was a part of ended after 24 years.
Wow.
Like that, 24 years, that's a long time. I haven't even had a cell phone that long.
Yeah.
and so he's played in it, but like he said, he's looking for a league because after 24 years, the commissioner, so the leader of it, quit due to some of these things we're talking about.
Yeah.
The drama of the league and the complaining and just managing that all the time. And so it looks like at some point, I'm sure this league began as a fun thing, but then at some point it starts to take that turn to, okay, this is not fun anymore. Now there's complaint, and so I think I would guess most leagues start out like with the best intentions, like a lot of things in life. Hey, this is going to be fun. Like we said, Jess, it's going to be a way for friends to connect from college, from whatever, for coworkers. A lot of offices have, fantasy football that happens, and it's just a way to, get Jim and Tom, who sit across from
Just
each other
people
to talk
yeah,
and interact
people you wouldn't normally.
in ways that are different,
Yeah.
than just corporate speak. And so there are, I think, a lot of those good things. And so I think this is navigating, where does this become an obsession? Where does this become something that's detrimental to relationships and not actually helpful? Where does it become an idol? Jokingly, I think that wife was stating, but if you're like, yeah, every Saturday, like every Sunday is dedicated, like all of it to football, and I've got 6 TVs and they're all watching every game. There's literally a channel, an NFL channel. I mean, that's how big this is. That's dedicated to catching every touchdown or point that's scored, like the NFL Red Zone, so that those fantasy football owners can see who's scoring and if it's, if their players on their team on their roster are getting points. And so I think that's the question maybe that we can ponder together is like, how do we begin to draw those lines for those things? And are there mental health, issues that can come into play for people that have these kind of obsessions, Jess? I don't know if that's ever something you guys...
Well, there was a story in The Guardian that said fantasy football can lead to mental health decline, study claims. It says mid-low mood or greater reported by 44% of heavy users, disruption to life acknowledged by 37% of those players. So a lot of times, I mean, even aside from fantasy football, I think, like, I know people who, when their team loses...
Yeah.
It's like that day's over. Or the Huskers lost.
Yeah.
They're
There was a day
That's the
when
thing.
they're mean to their
That's the thing.
family. They're short with their wife. They're grumpy. They can't come to church. They can't. I mean, whatever it is, whatever thing you want to say. Their whole day is ruined because of their team. I mean, and I get it that people are going to say, well, you don't care about sports, so you wouldn't understand. But also, I'm like, that just doesn't seem healthy.
Yeah.
To where your whole world is hanging on some sweaty boys on a field throwing a ball around like that.
and girls, there's
And
different sports where
Sure, but I mean, I guess today what we're talking about are the sweaty boys.
Thank you for trying to be inclusive. It's
Yeah, that was
okay.
very considerate of you.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's, I mean, I remember in the 90s, churches always would talk about those church stats, when the Huskers would rarely lose, that there was literally a correlation, even at CCC, I think, to like a dip in attendance
Yeah.
on, and now it's become more normative. But man, even for me, honestly, because I like to compete and I do love sports, like there are moments where like I have a bad day and it's noon ball. Like there's nothing on the line here. Right?
Afternoon ball.
Yeah, afternoon ball. But like there's moments where like you can start to equate your identity to letting people down. Like as a team, you missed a couple shots or whatever, or you had a bad day and all of a sudden, if you don't get a hold of it because of the competition, which I think is healthy in life, and it does, there are a lot of things sports and winning and losing can teach us, but if you don't get a hold of it and you don't use that as a tool to actually support you, and then it can cause a lot of, I mean, there's people, that you start to become angry at people or bitter at people in your workplace because they beat you, and then that all of a sudden doesn't cause healthy, relationships. So I totally would see that there's correlation to mental health decline to people that are a part of these leagues, whether it's relationally, like we already talked about, or just losing and what that does to people.
I think some of it, and I'm probably like not going to say, I'm going to say 2 things that probably are going to sound a little not that nice, but I think part of it's a maturity thing, like and a self-awareness thing, where it's like, okay, you had something that's disappointing, right? You're valid. If that's disappointing to you, this is a big deal to you. That is valid, right? We can validate those feelings. Now, if you're going and you're treating your family bad, or you're treating, I don't know, even a stranger bad, like that to me, and not realizing that like you are literally spending negative energy because of something like this, no matter what it is. Phil in fantasy football was something else. I mean, it's a self-awareness thing. I think it's a maturity thing. And also it's like we all have growth areas like this, where it's like something happens and I didn't get whatever. Yeah, I didn't make a basket. I didn't get this lift, or I didn't run as far as I wanted to. And we can easily take that energy and put it towards somebody else. But I think it's really like, it's our view of ourself,
Yeah.
of something that's going on inside of us that we're taking out on other people. So absolutely, do I think that this could highlight mental health, or if there's something there, like cause it to decline, or dare I say, encourage something that's already there as well, maybe highlight it.
When I think people are so, when they're so emotionally invested in a sports team or something like that, it's part of their identity at that point. And so it's kind of, we've seen it in politics too, where it's like, oh, my guy lost, and so this reflects poorly on me, or like or you'll hear them, be an armchair coach and say, oh, their coach is so bad, they should have done this, or that player ruined the game because they did that. And it's like, you looking at that person saying that in that moment, you're like, there's no way you're even capable of doing those things that these people are doing, and you're being very hypercritical about something that you can't control. But it does seem pretty unhealthy to get that emotionally invested in something. Is that something that you like? How do you guys understand that, or how do you see that when you see people that are emotionally invested? Is there something you can compare it to? How do you have empathy towards that? Or do you see? I mean, you mentioned that you have people you care about who are very invested in the sports, and it's like, I'm not saying that that's unhealthy. I'm just curious, like, how do you view that in a way that's like, well, this brings them joy, this brings them.
So I'll say, our friend that had this league that I definitely auto drafted my entire team last year, I felt bad, and it wasn't because he made me feel bad. Like, I knew he was disappointed in me and was frustrated, but I felt bad because I know how much he loves sports and how much he takes like the responsibility of like being, is it called the commissioner? That's the leader's name?
Or the commish for short.
The commish.
I don't know. I'm just making things up now.
And so to me, it was like, I cared because he cared.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I think it's just the same way of like, I'm all of a sudden, I love Pokemon, and I never thought I would be here at 38 loving Pokemon. But it was just like, my son loves Pokemon. Like, I'm doing that. It's on my phone. Like, and so to me, it's like, that's how I can have empathy, where it's like, I don't maybe understand that, but I can relate to caring about something that much and something being important to me.
Yeah.
And so that's where it's like, I build value into, I probably couldn't, I can hold my own to a certain extent. I'm not going to say I don't know anything about football, but like, that's why I keep doing it. Like, I'm going to do it again this year.
More about the relational side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think where the empathy comes into play is like, there's people that are just like, fantasy football's the worst. It's so stupid, blah, blah, blah. For a lot of reasons, some valid, not valid. But because I don't understand it, and I don't have the appreciation at the same level, doesn't just automatically, make somebody mean somebody's wasting their time, or that it's just a waste of someone's life, or a way for them to disconnect, because we all probably have that thing in our life that others don't fully understand, that maybe we spend a little too much time on, or maybe we have too much of our identity rooted in. And so no matter who you are listening to this, there's probably things that can come to your mind if you are honest about it, that we taught. And so maybe it's thinking about those things for you and your passion around that, and how you get disappointed, or how you feel if people don't like your art project, or you turn in a paper or writing and you don't get the response you want, or whatever that might look like. And so building an empathy in that way too, because we are uniquely wired and have unique passions and all that kind of stuff, I think is one way for the person, that's frustrated with the fantasy football person that has an obsession, or they think it's unhealthy or whatever, is to first, okay, how do I start to think about the things in my life, and how do I start to share those with that other person, let them in, to have a healthy dialogue. If you want to actually maybe address this with somebody that you think is kind of crossing the line, okay, what are yours, and how can you be honest and be the first to lead with honesty and transparency and vulnerability about those types of things. And I think it's one of the hard questions in life, when good things, and I think fantasy football is good, or at least morally neutral, become ultimate things. I think that's when they become an idol. And I think when we start to talk about how much our emotions are attached to those, how much time we spend on those, how much anger or joy we get from those things, I think that becomes one of those things that helps us have a thermostat. A thermometer on, is this good? Is this bad? But to have feelings like passions and feelings attached to it doesn't automatically make it bad. To be
Truly.
sad,
Yeah.
to be sad that you lost, like to have some kind of sadness. Oh, that's a bummer. Like I lost. Like that's healthy.
Yeah.
You know, it helps you want to grow. That's what drives you to get better, and it's what drives people to think critically or to get better in whatever craft that they're in.
In some
Right.
ways, though, with fantasy football, though, I feel like that's it. It's similar to gambling because it's so random. I know their stats, I get that, but like
You mean
the outcome
way
of a
that you
game.
load up your roster.
Well, I'm just saying, like, you're sad about losing doesn't necessarily mean that you're bad at it.
Yeah.
It's so, because in the same with like gambling,
Right.
you could be like sitting at the blackjack table and it doesn't necessarily mean you're bad at it. It's
Only
just
so much is
luck.
in your control.
Yeah,
I mean,
fate,
isn't it
you know,
technically
just-
someone else's fault? Your player's fault if you
Yeah.
don't get that point.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, right. But I mean, whether that ball got fumbled or ended up being a touchdown, it could go either way. It doesn't always equate to the skill of the player or the fantasy football player. You know what I mean? So that's where, I mean, there's some people who would maybe bring that up and say, is this a gateway to gambling or other things like that?
I mean, why wouldn't it? Why couldn't
it could be. Yeah, anything
right?
could be, I guess.
I mean,
But-
you're doing lots of similar, maybe aspects of gambling in a safe environment, right? It's at random. There can be money involved, people involved. I mean, there's wagers and bets, especially if you're competitive. I can absolutely see.
And maybe that's my own
as well.
misunderstanding of how sports work. But I don't always. I mean, I know that people can be very good at it, but that doesn't. To me, I mean, there's so much random that can happen, right?
Sure.
It's not all just skill based.
I think, but I'm thinking like, yeah, gambling can happen. I also think like bullying could happen. Like you had mentioned a little bit earlier, Alex, of like, okay, there's one person, like you could easily gang up on that person. I mean,
Yeah.
friendships can be on the line. You can get made fun of. Somebody could, do something to your car.
Yeah. Oh,
All kinds of stuff. I
okay.
mean, there's a lot on the line. I think like being this level of invested, it's interesting because I feel like to get to a place, it's like we have like little chain links of how this started. So it's like if I ask Alex, I know you like the Huskers. I bet you that love for them didn't just start a year ago. Like there's like stories and things that have happened along the way that make you feel a certain way. When the Huskers come up on the screen, you get a
Dad
little
and grandpa
soft
and
spot.
great
Yeah.
grandpa.
Yeah, and
like
so
it
I
goes-
think that
yeah.
I would be curious, right? We can't sit down with every fantasy football man or woman, but it's just like, where's your love of sports come from? It probably is years old,
Yeah.
but then it gets maybe a little too much certain times.
And I think that's where it gets rough for us to. I mean, when we start to throw around the sin word, does it lead
The
to
sin word-
sin?
the word
like,
sin?
Yeah, the word sin
Sinning.
with anything
Okay.
in our lives.
Yeah.
It really ends up becoming a stewardship thing. Like we ultimately, God promises that we're all going to be held accountable for the things we do, the things that we say, the way that we spend our time. And I don't think anything that we do that's not like fully on mission for Jesus, any hour we spend that's not evangelizing is Jesus going to be like, that's a waste of it. But there do become, okay, how do I spend my resources, my time, my treasure, my talents? And we all can begin to ask those things. But anytime we're like, if somebody approached me and like, you're sinning, and this is, you're playing fantasy football equals sinning, like I'd have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
But there are things in my life that become stewardship issues that become sin that I've had people call me out on, and so maybe that's one of them. And I think that's where it gets like, that's not our job, is to tell someone that they're sinning. But I think if you're getting angry, if you want to have to justify why you spend all this time doing it, it might be an indicator
Yeah.
that this is getting unhealthy.
Yeah.
If you're having relational conflict with your spouse about this, if it's pulling you away from friendships, if it's creating drama in the office, if it's making your relationships with other people a problem, then it's probably an issue. If you abandon worshiping Jesus because, it's not his season, then it probably is something that you need to do some prayer and investigating in your life with. And so I think there is that, but we can't answer that question for you. And I think no one can answer that fully for me either. And so, but I think there's some things to be aware of. Like one listener, shared, and I don't know who they are or like what the emotion behind it. Just the words they said were, my husband goes to drafts, those are in quotes, that take hours. Now my 9-year-old is obsessed as well, and so there's maybe a spouse that's like, I don't know how to discuss this with my husband, and I don't want to see my son, spend their entire life that way. I know, Jessa, if you want to read what somebody else shared just about the workplace and sports analogies and things like that.
I think I'll just read it because I think it's just well said. Many times in the workplace, some women and men as well can feel ostracized through sports talk, and fantasy football is one avenue where that can happen. Fantasy football outside of the workplace is one thing, but when it bleeds into work and it's almost required to fit in, then it may cause issues and lead to people feeling left out. And then she went on to say, she went on to say, oh, this is my sister, Brianne. Okay, so sports analogies in the workplace or even like sermons in churches, being aware of who's around, people could be confused, and then just how we communicate. And I think that it was kind of interesting of just, I hadn't thought about even just more sports analogies in general of even like if we watched a game earlier in the week or something big happened.
Yeah.
We couldn't use it as an example, or the point of what we were saying doesn't hit the same because they didn't see that happening. Yeah.
And Jesus was, I think, an expert in taking things that were a part of culture, and trying to, things that a lot of people would understand and trying to make points out of them. And so, sometimes sports are that, or sometimes he'd use bread and leaven and, things that were general things that people could understand. And so, but there is that fine balance of someone feeling ostracized, or like if it's over celebrated. And there's definitely churches, where there's, or people, or probably company cultures where they are so built around sport talk or around the gym or whatever that it can become isolating and ostracizing to those who don't have that same passion.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that happens a lot. I think that happens a lot more than
when it's a culture thing
than we give that credit to.
Yeah. So it's, again, this isn't, I think this is just kind of maybe an opportunity for people to identify this stuff in their lives. I think we would always agree that we would hate to use this podcast or platform as a source of ammunition for you to use against your spouse or something like that. But I do think sometimes when you are faced with something that needs a change, it's like, this is your opportunity to make that change. And it doesn't say you're weak or you're a bad person or you're whatever. It's just now if you've identified that moment, then take that next step, make that change, and that's okay.
Or maybe you like it. Maybe you're like the commissioner of the league, and it's like if someone wants to make that change and they don't, it's not tied to you. Like they're not breaking up with you as a person. So maybe that's like you're like it, and you're like I do this in a safe way, but like let someone off the hook, and don't equate that to like them wanting to ruin a relationship with you. And so I think that's another good outcome from somebody that maybe loves it but needs to just reconsider some of those things.
Just be honest with yourself and realize that's okay to make those changes, and if this gives you the opportunity to be more present with your family or your spouse or whatever, then that's probably more important than, if I was going to say a sports team and I couldn't think of one. The Jets.
Benny and the Jets.
When we go to the Super Bowl.
Well, you better end this before I get to my draft, Eric.
Yeah, I don't want you to be late. So,
and we're gonna. I agree with you, Eric. I don't want to just sit here and be like, this is ammunition for no fantasy football, because I'm
This isn't
for
going
one
to change
playing.
your mind.
I'm assuming you're playing this year. And this could easily, right? We could easily have filled in the blank with something else that's your thing.
Yeah, I think you can
So
do
it's
that.
like, just because we're talking about fantasy football and you're like, oh, that's not me.
Mm-hmm.
All good. Yeah, well, we probably all have a thing. Like, I'm sitting here like, okay, fantasy football isn't the thing that makes me irritable and grumpy and grouchy at my kids and my husband, but
maybe The Bachelorette.
maybe,
is,
so-and-so
and,
doesn't get a rose.
Yeah.
Okay,
Your Harley
come on. Now
Davidson.
that's like, but you know what I mean? I mean, we
Yeah.
all have our thing.
Yeah.
And so but it could easily be one football team or,
Well,
I don't
and
know, bags with your competitive neighbors across the street. I mean, it could
it's
truly be anything.
Knitting.
So much of it is about escapism, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's fine. In a lot of ways, we need to escape sometimes to heal and recover and mentally relax. But I think you also need to identify what are those things you're escaping from. And it's like, if you're escaping from your spouse or your family intentionally and you want to be away from them to do stuff like this. And I think sometimes that's how a spouse can interpret it. Oh, they don't want to be around me. They want to go do this. But I think if that's specifically your reason for doing it, then that's where you need to start opening those lines of communication, because that's probably the problem. But if you're just escaping to have community and decompress, like, then that's okay. But if you're running from a problem that you need to address, then yeah, it's probably a bad thing, and you need to identify that, and it's okay to do that. Find people who will support you in it and not make you feel bad for making a change that betters yourself. That does it for this episode. Thanks everybody for listening. We do really appreciate it. And again, go follow us on Instagram or TikTok at CCOMA Podcast, or leave us a review on iTunes. That always helps. But until next time, we'll talk to you then. If you have any questions or concerns, you can drop us a note on the email. We still have that too. I think you can fire up the old email
many
machine.
ways to communicate with us.
I think it's a crank or something like that. But yeah, that's podcast@cccomaha.org. Until then, we'll talk to you later.